An entitled jerk demands that I give up my front row barricade spot at a concert, claiming that he's disabled and the only place he would want to stand is exactly where I'm at. But despite the fact that I waited 10 hours to claim this spot, as well as the fact that this venue has a lot of options available for people who are disabled, I decided to turn this guy down and deny his request, causing him to freak out on me in a way that honestly shocked me. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, I traveled to another country to see an artist that I've been a fan of for 6 years. This was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me, and I'd been waiting months for it. I sacrificed a lot financially and mentally to make it happen. Since it was my first and probably only time seeing them, I went all out. I bought general admission tickets, and I arrived at the queue at about 5 o'clock in the morning, even though, mind you, the doors wouldn't open until about 7 o'clock p.m., and this was all in freezing cold weather. I waited all day, hungry, cold, and dehydrated, but it was worth it because when the doors opened, I secured a front row barricade spot right up against the stage. This was my dream spot. But then a guy behind me tapped on my shoulder and told me that he was disabled. He said the venue was supposed to let disabled attendees in early, but they hadn't. And it was then that he asked me to give him my spot at the barricade. But here's the thing. I know this venue is very accommodating for disabled attendees, and I actually have friends with disabilities who've gone to shows here, and the staff always ensures they get to the front row safely during the designated time frame before it gets too crowded. Now, I'm a very short person, maybe about 5'1", and this guy was extremely tall. If I gave him my spot, I wouldn't be able to see anything at all because he would completely block my view. And I honestly would have been willing to move if he wasn't so tall or if I could still see from the second row. However, in this case, I knew that I would lose the view I had waited more than 10 hours for. I tried to compromise. I pointed out that the right side of the barricade was still open and suggested that he go there. Since he is so tall, he'd still have a great view and could hold on to the rail for support. However, he refused, saying the view wasn't as good as where I was. While we were talking, that section filled up, and he became more insistent. He said that he would have a hard time if he couldn't take my spot. And at this point, I got frustrated. I explained that if his disability was that serious, he should be in the accessible section, which is specifically designated for attendees with disabilities. If he insisted on being in the standing section, he should have brought a support aid like a cane or something like that. And I had seen someone nearby with something similar. If he spoke to security, they could escort him to the front row disabled seating, which has a fantastic view and is much more accommodating. After hearing this, he called me a massive jerk and told me to get effed, and then he turned around and left. I feel like he just wanted my spot and wasn't being truthful. The venue offers several options for disabled attendees, and I tried to direct him to alternatives. I feel bad for saying no, but I don't think it was fair for him to ask me to sacrifice my entire experience. So am I the jerk for turning down this guy claiming he was disabled? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This guy was 100% lying to you about being disabled. If he really was disabled, he wouldn't have reacted in the way that he did when you said, no, I'm not moving. You waited outside for 10 hours for this spot, and now this jerk is coming up and being like, you need to move, I'm disabled. And it's like, screw that, who is this guy anyways? And sure, it would be inappropriate to be like, oh, prove to me that you're disabled. Like, that's not what I'm saying here, but if he really does have some kind of disability, it sounds like this venue is very accommodating. There's specific spots you can stand and be at where you still have a fantastic view of the concert. So the fact that he was trying to act like this and he zeroed in on you specifically, all because you had the best spot in the venue, in my opinion shows that he was being very dishonest. Because I really believe he was trying to like intimidate you out of your spot, especially with him refusing to stand anywhere else except for where you're standing. So truly good for you for standing your ground, because that guy was an absolute jerk. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by spending over $1,000 on cat furniture for a cat that literally would rather sleep in a cardboard box than the custom furniture that I built for her. And at this point, I feel incredibly humiliated and I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I, an adult man, spent $1,000 on cat furniture, and just take a wild guess as to where she sleeps. If you guessed inside the cardboard box it came in, then congratulations, you understand cats way better than I do. Let me set the scene. I decided my cat deserved the best. None of that flimsy pet store stuff for her. No, I commissioned a handcrafted solid oak velvet cushioned cat bed from an actual artisan. Think bespoke furniture, except for a four-legged dictator who spends most of her time plotting my demise. The cat bed arrived and I was so proud. I imagined her reclining regally on her velvet throne like the queen she is, but instead, she sniffed it once, gave me the feline equivalent of an eye roll, and immediately immediately climbed into the cardboard box that it was shipped in. She shredded the packing paper, settled in, and hasn't looked back. I've tried everything to lure her into her fancy bed. If I give her treats, it's completely ignored. If I offer her catnip, she barely glances at it. Even waving one of those feather wands over it only resulted in her looking at me like I was the dumbest person alive. Meanwhile, she's turned the shipping box into a luxurious penthouse suite. Now she lounges there, occasionally peeking out to give me a side eye, as if to say, you spent $1,000 on a bed and I'm living my best life in free housing? Like, I'm pretty sure she is straight up mocking me. Honestly, I feel like she might be a minimalist interior designer in disguise because she's chosen the cardboard aesthetic over velvet cushions. At this point, I'm convinced cats are an alien species sent to Earth to humble us. They've somehow trained us to cater to their every whim while rejecting all of it in favor of garbage. But at this point, I have learned my lesson. Next time, I'm just buying her a new box and hopefully saving myself from the financial humiliation. Oh boy, you spent $1,000 on cat furniture? It sounds like you wanted that way more than your cat, because that does not sound like a good idea. Like, I don't even own a cat and I could have told you that this is not going to go well. So yeah, hopefully you kind of learned your lesson and you won't spend that kind of money in the future, because that cat would much rather sleep in a box than some fancy bed. Am I the jerk for telling my coworker why some customers might not like her, as well as why she's not getting as many tips as other servers? Because right now she's very mad at me for telling her the truth, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I work at a restaurant as a server. One of my coworkers moved up here from Georgia for college and started working here a few months ago. She constantly lays on the Southern charm thing really thick. She calls everyone honey and sweetie and all of that. She also tends to chit-chat with people instead of just letting them eat after bringing them their food or drinks. It's also kind of obvious that a lot of them don't want to really talk to her. They give one-word answers, and she just barrels forward and talks at them. And by the way, management has told her off about this more than once. About 2 weeks ago, she was upset because a customer yelled at her and said, "Don't call me that," when she called her honey, and she complains that she's not getting as many tips as the other servers. She says it's because she has a Southern accent and customers think that she's stupid, but I don't really think that's the case. She asked me for advice, and I said it's because she takes so long to bring things out and then wastes time trying to make small talk. I also said that the excessive pet names sound kind of condescending, and they aren't really something that you would call a stranger here. She told me that she wasn't going to start being rude to customers because then she would make even less money. I told her that it's not being rude, it's just how things work here, and it's rude to other customers that she's supposed to be serving when she spends all of her time trying to make small talk instead of doing her job and calling them weird things. Well, now she's mad at me and she's been avoiding me. Maybe I could have been gentler when trying to explain why people complain about her, but I was also really stressed out because it is the Christmas season and so much is going on. So seriously, am I in the wrong in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, if somebody came up to me as my server and started constantly talking to me while I'm trying to eat my food, I would also probably not tip them very well. In fact, I might not even tip them at all. Like seriously, the food is hot and this lady's still trying to talk to me? It's like, just stop. I really just don't want to talk to you. The best kind of server is one that is almost invisible. They are there when you need them, they're nice and cordial, but they also stay out of the way and they don't bother you too much. Like, it is a balancing act, but it seems like she's way too attentive to one table at a time. And I can completely understand why people would be like, listen, stop calling me honey and sweetie. Because if you do that too much, it can come off as incredibly fake and condescending. Like, I think the original poster has that exactly spot on. So for your coworker to not understand that this is what's happening, or for her to even ignore the fact that management has gotten on her case about this, in my opinion, this is a self-inflicted problem. She should be able to figure out at this point why she's not getting a lot of tips. Because seriously, all she has to do is leave customers alone and do her job. So no, you're not the jerk for telling the truth, because it sounds like this coworker is way too thick in the head to understand it herself. My mother-in-law's weird tactics of inviting me and my husband to events, only to then cancel a day or two later, finally blew up in her face during a company Christmas party that she was a part of. And even to this day, I'm honestly still so satisfied by her reaction. Here's what happened. So it's no secret that my mother-in-law doesn't like me or my spouse, who is her stepson, and for all intents and purposes, we ignore her antics, and we just don't engage. She actively tries to keep her biological family away from us, as she hates reminders of my father-in-law's marital history, but she will go out of her way to try and play the long-suffering mother-in-law. She lets the father-in-law try to invite us to family gatherings in public for appearances, but cancels plans in private days later. We seldom meet other than the annual company holiday party, since the father-in-law and mother-in-law work for the same company. Well, here's where the meat of the story really comes into play. The company party is always a huge event with upscale food. They've got an open bar, as well as live entertainment and a DJ with a dance floor. Everyone dresses up and shows out with the higher-ups and all that jazz. Everyone is drinking and having a good time. Well, that is everyone but my mother-in-law and her belligerently hammered firstborn and his new girlfriend. The new girlfriend is nice, but both seem dead set on keeping her away from us and actively trying to start fights with passive-aggressive comments. Now, we don't react. We just keep laughing and partying it up since we know everyone there and they don't. It starts to seem like a non-issue with them seemingly leaving us alone. That is until my father-in-law approaches us, very drunk and bursting with glee, as he asks us to join him and his family for New Year's, all before he leaves for the night. While we gladly accept, I instantly knew what to say when I saw her marching up, pretending to be the doting mother-in-law and telling us how she hopes we all get together real soon. And she said this all while hugging me tightly. Well, I just wrapped my arms around that sour-faced woman, pulled her in tight, and I whispered in her ear, "We already got the invite for New Year's, so your wish is granted. We'll see you then." And then I planted a loud kiss on her cheek. Well, in that moment, she hauls backwards, looking absolutely horrified, and ran out of there like a bat straight out of Hades. The spouse is staring at me while I'm just grinning like a Cheshire cat, and he just laughs when I tell him what I did. Well, sure enough, 3 days later, my father-in-law is calling us, apologizing for having to cancel because there was a family emergency and they needed to leave town for it. The father-in-law had forgotten that years ago, he shared locations with us and he never shut it off. And lo and behold, they were home the entire night. And I genuinely don't think we've ever laughed as hard either. Since then, we've also begun to use the exact same excuse of having a family emergency just so we could politely turn them down and never have to deal with them. Oh wow, the mother-in-law sounds super toxic. She literally only invites you to stuff so that she can cancel and be like, "Oh, sorry, actually you're not invited." And she's only keeping up appearances in public to make it be like, "Oh yeah, we have a happy family." So yeah, your mother-in-law is incredibly toxic and in my opinion, very weird. My husband's pregnant mistress begged me in the middle of a cafe to leave my family so that she can be with my husband in raising their child. And I'm honestly so deeply offended by this that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so this mistress that I'm about to describe, I honestly don't even know what she qualifies as, or even if mistress is fitting or not. According to my husband's words, it was a drunken one-night mistake. They run in the same work circles and field, but they don't work together. Now, my husband was dropped off at our house 2 months ago drunk off of his butt right after a company event. He was crying, and out of all of that, he was blabbering nonsensical things. I tried sobering him up, but his legs couldn't even support him, and I couldn't drag him onto the couch, so he slept it off on the ground, and the next day he confessed to everything. He was crying, and I've only ever seen him cry a handful of times in all of our years of marriage, and he said that everything was foggy, and he doesn't remember much, but that he slept with her. I won't type in my reaction because I can only describe it as incredibly violent. Not physically, but I unloaded on him. I sobbed and screamed, and then lied to my kids after it woke them up. We tested him for any kind of substance because the way he was describing having a foggy memory and that he didn't drink that much honestly sounded incredibly sketchy. And as awful as it is, I felt a little bit of relief that it might have been that, and that he hadn't willingly cheated on me, but we come to find out that there was nothing sketchy in his system. Now, the past 2 months have been brutal on us, but we are slowly working on us in therapy. Some may call it weak that I didn't divorce him, but I just can't bring myself to do it, and believe me, I thought about it a lot. He had not had contact with her since that night up until she got his number and sent him a picture of her blood work a few days ago. Apparently she's pregnant and she's now asking him to meet up. Now that sent us into another spiral, but we agreed that I would meet her because there's an innocent life on the line. I wish I can say that she's awful, and I hate myself for this, but under different circumstances, her and I would have been good friends. She seemed ashamed and honestly she looked lost. She's not that much younger than my husband and I. We are 33 and 34, and she's 28 years old but grew up sheltered by her religious parents. Not that that's any kind of excuse, but it's just what she said. I asked her what she was going to do with the baby and she got really quiet. I don't know what I thought she was going to say, but it certainly wasn't her asking me to leave my husband, because that truly blew my mind. She said that once her boyfriend finds out, he will leave her and her parents will cut her off for having a child out of wedlock. She said that she can't do it all on her own and that I'll get a nice settlement and I can start fresh. And when she said that, I laughed. I mean, God help me, but I laughed harder than I thought I could, all while she started crying. These past 2 months have been testing my sanity, and I don't have that much left in me. Once I calmed down, I told her that I will not leave him. If she wants to have the baby, he will figure out support and custody, but that was about it. She then started crying harder in the middle of the cafe, but my God, we were already getting looks from my unhinged laughing and begging me to leave him. But I told her I won't do it. My husband and I have been together since I was 14 and he was 15. We stuck together through high school, got engaged and married through our bachelor's and master's degrees, have 2 beautiful kids, and we are trying for more, and I won't throw all of that away just because she spent some quality time with my husband. He's all I've ever known, and I don't even remember a life without him in it. And let's say I agree to leave him. Well, then what? He'll marry her and she'll take over my life and be in my kids' lives raising them half the time. I didn't let her get a word in, and I was crying by the time I was done with my rant. I then left her there and she was still sobbing. My husband and I already talked with a lawyer for a paternity test, and we are waiting on that before we do anything else. My husband sent her a text with my contact information and told her that all communications are to be through me before he blocked her number. And I didn't ask him to do that, but he is trying. I just don't know where to go from here if it does turn out to be his, because this situation is incredibly hard. Okay, let's just take a step back real quick and really try to understand that this lady tried to be like, oh yeah, leave your husband. I can't raise this kid on my own. You'll get a settlement and you'll get a fresh start. How about it? Does that sound good? Like seriously, this lady's out of her mind. Just because she made the worst mistake of her life doesn't mean that you should have to pay the price by losing your family. And I just love the fact that you're basically saying, okay, let's get a paternity test. If it is my husband's, then we can walk that path. But honestly, based on the way she's acting, I wouldn't be surprised if it was somebody else's. So truly, I'm so sorry that this happened, and I really hope this all works out for your family, because the fact that she even asked that in the first place, in my opinion, is unbelievably toxic. My dad thinks that I spend more time with my husband's family than I do my own family that's close by. But quite literally, the opposite is true, as I feel I spend way too much time with my dad's side of the family than I ever do with my husband's side. And at this point, I feel incredibly frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm honestly asking myself if I really don't visit my family enough. I'm so exhausted with their demands. I confirmed plans with my dad for my husband and I to come over today, and he responded by saying, well, I'm gonna tell you, I feel like you guys are always putting his needs or his family before your needs and your family, and that's not fair. And it's like, what? Are you kidding me right now? I'm a grown adult who still answers to her family's every beck and call like a child. Do they need money? Well, I'll give them money. If they need a driver, I'm the driver. If they need a babysitter or a house sitter, when my mom and stepdad are always on business trips, well, yeah, I'll step up and I'll do that too. Want me to come to an event? Give me a time and a date and I'm there. And I do all of that for free because duh, they're family. And I'm also juggling married life, a full-time job, weekly appointments, because on top of all of this, I have multiple disabilities and I'm barely able to even work full-time to begin with. And I've got daily responsibilities I need to take care of. Not to mention that I come over just to visit multiple times a month, and that's not even including the times they need me. I do everything I can for my family at the cost of my mental health and energy, but apparently it's not enough. Nothing I do is ever enough. I'm just so tired. My husband, on the other hand, maybe gets to see someone from his family every 3 or 4 months, and that is actually not fair to him at this point. My dad is completely deluded because the situation is the other way around. My husband and I have not seen his mother since Thanksgiving, but we visited my dad twice just this week alone, and we're about to do it again today. Not to mention once the week before and before that. So when my dad sent that text, this is what I said back. Look, I just don't see how that's true. My cousin just spent a week and a half with me. I was at grandma's for Christmas, and I went to see Papa as well. We visited you several times a month. I go to all of my sibling events. When they say they need me there, I'm there. But my husband never gets to go to his. He's not even been able to go to a single one of his brother's basketball games. He has had to drop plans with his family because someone from my family demanded that we be there, and it's just not fair for him. I've never dropped plans with mine for his. He sees his family once every few months. In fact, next weekend, he is literally about to go see his grandmother for the first time in 4 years, and I'm finally getting to meet her. He has met all of my family, and I'm always getting to see all of you with or without him there. I've only met his parents, one set of grandparents and siblings, and we're married, and yet I still have yet to meet so many people. That's how little he gets to see his family. It's been over a year since him and his siblings have even seen their dad. In fact, no one can get a hold of him. We went to his mom's for Thanksgiving and yesterday for a late Christmas. And before Thanksgiving, it had been a few months since we had visited her. We're going to your house for your Christmas tonight. We saw you at Nana's for Christmas at her place, and I visited you a few days before that too. Not to mention that I see my mom and my siblings multiple times a month. Well, he responds by saying the following. Well, maybe it's just me. I just feel like y'all do that too. Because you definitely do not come visit me several times a month. And I invite all of you almost every single week. I'm 10 10 minutes away, and it's maybe once a month that you come by, and sometimes not even that. And you guys have never, ever, not one time invited me and your brother to come visit and spend time with all of you at your place. So it's like, okay, first of all, I visit him every Saturday, and if I can't on Saturday, then I do on Sunday evening. And secondly, he invites us to church, not to come over and hang out. We are literally from different religions, and I'm not going to his church or any church. I am extremely uncomfortable with it, and I've told him over and over again that the answer will always be no, and yet he still asks me every Sunday. And it's like, sorry, but not only do we believe in something different, but we are the exact type of person your denomination loudly and proudly proclaims to hate. Third, he lives 30 minutes away, not 10. I honestly don't know where he pulled that number from. Fourth, we don't invite my side of the family over, besides maybe my cousins, because they are judgmental like crazy and have tried to rudely just show up at our door without calling. In fact, when we were moving, they made rude remarks about our roommate, our dog, our decorations, our lifestyle, and our beliefs, as well as them saying that I don't do a good enough job keeping the floors clean. Basically, they've just said a lot of rude and judgmental things in general. He has said over and over again how he doesn't like how much our husky German Shepherd mix sheds, and how he would get dog hair all over him. Plus, my brother is terrified of dogs. So it's like, why is he even bringing this up as a point? Like, he doesn't even want to come over himself. Honestly, I swear I'm just so exhausted. It feels like everyone wants to push and pull me around and demand time with them. So I honestly just question, like, I do enough, right? I personally don't know people my age that spend as much time with their family as I do, and I know some people who haven't spoken to their parents since they moved out. I have a friend that has seen hers 3 times this entire year, and in my opinion, he should feel blessed he gets to spend any time with me at all. I'm trying to have my own life and balance all this other garbage at once. So truly, give me grace, because my God, I feel absolutely overwhelmed. Yeah, your dad sounds incredibly toxic, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. The way he's acting is super entitled. He really expects you to spend every waking moment with him, while also basically making up all this other garbage about how you are or are not doing enough. So truly, I'm so sorry you're getting treated that way, because his behavior is absolutely unacceptable. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.